Well, that sounds like blasphemy.
He's gonna hurt the
I
children.
want that man arrested immediately.
We can't do that, sir. This is America.
Sir, this is a Wendy's drive-thru.
The only thing you have to fear is fear itself.
Hard times. The only salvation is to be good.
Kids won't go to church
Be
anymore.
good.
Egypt has some of the most fascinating examples of secret mushroom symbolism of any place in the world. It was the height of Middle Eastern society at one point. Egypt started out matrilineal and ended up patriarchal no later than the time of the first invasion around 3150 BC. The Hyksos moved in around 1650 BC, and this is when we really start to see mushroom symbolism appear. Out of all the artifacts and stelas that are in existence today, we really don't have much of anything from the earlier dynasties before this time period. The use of mushrooms in clan societies was egalitarian, and there were no secrets among clan members. The secrets arose when the male-led kingship societies withheld the knowledge of the mushroom from the people. The bull's horns were symbols of the early deities like Sin from Mesopotamia, as can be seen above the bull and also above Sin. The lie sold to the people later on by historians and archaeologists in modern times was that this is a moon god or deity. There were no moon gods in the ancient world, just like there were no solar deities or sun gods. They were all mushroom deities, originally in the tribal clan societies like the Minoan and early Mycenaeans from Greece, or the Celtic clans of Ireland and Scotland, which we will get into in upcoming presentations. When we see images of Khepri and hear the stories, what makes more sense, that a dung beetle is holding up the sun and rolls the sun across the sky, or the dung beetle is holding up dung, celebrating the magic mushroom? The trick they used on everyone in more modern times was saying that the ancient people associated the moon with the bull. This is total bullshit, again, meant to mislead. There is no evidence any ancient deity was ever associated with the sun or the moon until Egypt, that is. This is where the shift first began, and the priesthood created a strong distraction away from the mushroom by creating sun worship. The problem for them now is, we can put it all together, and we see lots of mushroom symbolism leaking through their sieve. Why is that? Because they hid the symbolism in artwork for the initiated priesthood, and now everyone who takes psychedelics is a potential priest able to decode their hidden messages. Planets and astrotheology were important as well in ancient times since Sumer and Babylon, but they didn't worship them in any way, and the planets held no association to any deities until the time of Rome, like Zeus associated with Jupiter, for example. The main symbols of Egypt, the Ankh, the Djed, and the Wasp scepter, are all symbols for life to the uninitiated. To the initiated, they're secretly symbols for the magic mushroom. They're always being depicted, held by Egyptian deities in interesting ways. The Ankh is either by itself, or part of a staff, or sometimes being fed to someone like food. The Djed pillar is combined with the Ankh or the Wasp scepter on many occasions, or it's a staff all by itself. In each of the examples, it's clear there's a connection between all three, and each of them is used in a way that conveys mushroom symbolism. What is the Eye of Horus we are also familiar with? Well, there's a sister symbol called the Wadjet that reveals more accurately the third eye symbolism is actually the magic mushroom, which opens up the third eye, or the ability to see things through the misty fabric of material reality. There is no process for opening up the third eye. It's an expression used to convey the idea of illumination that happens when someone takes psychedelic. Sometimes the symbolism is right in your face, but most of the time it's cleverly disguised and the headdresses are inside the bodies of the deities or characters in the artwork. The stories always support the mushroom narrative as well. For instance, we have Khnum at the potter's wheel creating the first human. Likewise, in Greece there are images of the creation of the first human that look very similar. Recall a previous presentation where I pointed out Greek metamorphosis creation story where the first human spawned up from fungus in the soil. And images of Isis, who not only represented at times Upper and Lower Egypt, but she was known at times as being a bird goddess as well as a serpent goddess. And recall how I stated earlier, the biggest secret to unraveling the occultism of the mushroom was understanding the bird represents the cap of the mushroom and the serpent the stem. Sometimes Isis has a bird sitting on top of a mushroom on her head. Egypt was a place where medicine, magic, mushrooms, and myth all combined together to create symbolism and imagery that today most of humanity still struggles to unravel. But once you understand how important mushrooms were to the priesthood, and you put together that with the fact that in Egypt priests were also doctors, it all starts to make sense how the mushroom was the most primary ingredient for many magic medicines. But it wasn't only mushrooms. The Egyptians had likely isolated DMT as well, most definitely used cannabis and coca cocaine, and really just about any plant medicine worthy of its uses in healing. Now we'll take a look at some of the other well-known Egyptian deities and the hidden symbolism found in their heads and bodies. There's Sekhmet in the form of a lion. She's the consort of Ptah. She was a patron of healers and physicians, and her priests were skilled doctors. Horus was referred to as the Bull of Heaven. Horus holds the wand of the sacred acacia, which is a popular source of DMT, only one molecule off from psilocin, the active ingredient in mushrooms. Hathor was a cow goddess. She's often seen with the common Egyptian headdress, which features its own version of the hidden symbolism, similar to the goddess of Arena shown at the Sphinx Gate, which also closely resembles depictions of King Tut. Images exist of Tehuti picking pine cones from the Tree of Life, similar to the Anunnaki. Tehuti was the Egyptian equivalent of the Sumerian seven sages in many ways. Osiris is the retelling of the story of Shiva, as mentioned earlier. At this point, he is a dying and resurrected vegetation god, slightly more removed from the mushroom in these Egyptian stories, but the imagery still reveals the older hidden truth. Osiris is a mushroom deity, along with all the rest of them, as we can clearly see. Sometimes his body appears dotted like an amanita mushroom. We have to wonder why the Egyptians always maintain this particular pose. Other figures of Egyptian mythology include Kneph, or Canubis, the first phoenix. Also, we see early images of Abraxas in pose similar to Kneph. There's so much secret symbolism in Egypt with magic mushrooms on the walls and stelas, it would seem as if possibly the entire creation of art itself was nothing more than priestly attempts to show off how well and beautifully they could disguise the mushroom from the slaves and lower classes. It really does appear this is how art got started in the ancient world, and the strangest thing is how it still seems to be the way the royal families and elites keep it from the populace in the current day and age. And finally, the later Ptolemaic period has lots of images of Serapis wearing a modeus on his head. It's called a palmyrene priestly hat. What is it really? A mushroom, of course. Sometimes we see Aphrodite with one that doubles as a mushroom, and sometimes we see them on images of Kubaba or Cybele or Sibyl. In Metamorphosis by Ovid, once again, Lucius reveals his experience in the initiation of the Isis-Osiris-Serapis rites, where he describes how he, quote, penetrated to the boundaries of the earth, that he approached the borderland of death, and setting his foot on the threshold of Persephone, when he had been borne through all of the four elements, he returned again. At midnight he beheld the sun gleaming with bright light, and came into the presence of the gods below and the gods above, and adored them face to face. This concludes the presentation titled You Can't Unsee It, Episode 4, Egyptian Mysteries. For more information on the subject, visit AncientPsychedelia.com and check out the free online version of the book, Ancient Psychedelia, Alien Gods and Mushroom Goddesses. Thanks for watching. One last thing I should mention, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to support me in my work, here are several ways you can do that. It does help tremendously, and I really appreciate it.